A controversial fetal homicide bill gained initial approval in the state Senate Judiciary Committee this week. Republicans drafted the bill in response to the recent assault of a Longmont woman, but opponents refer to it as a vague approach to the personhood issue. David, Colorado is one of a few states that doesn't have a law like this, but I'm not sure if this one has much hope to get through the House. What do you think?
Well, probably not. Probably Speaker Hollinghorst will send it to the Kill Committee, which is especially aptly named in this circumstance. Kudos to John Tomasik of the Colorado Independent, who I think has done the most in-depth reporting on the substance of this. The opponents have all these scenarios of how it's going to lead to the prosecution of pregnant women. In fact, they pulled out although they've had trouble coming up with specifics, as he explained when they testified, there was a study that just came out by the National Advocates for Pregnant Women group called, and they talked about the prosecution of pregnant women in many states over the last 40 years. And so I looked at the report, and in their executive summary, they've got their 12 biggest horror stories that they lead with. You look at those, all of them are specifically excluded by this bill. It is very carefully written. I've read the bill. Nothing the mother does can lead to a criminal prosecution. Period. It's not just getting an abortion. It's anything. You drink all the time and the kid dies of alcohol poisoning, in utero. Can't possibly be prosecuted under this. So I think the opposition is at base much less about the actual text of this very carefully and narrowly written bill, but it is against the putting into law the concept that a baby in the womb is a person, that there's that it's when you lose your appendix, nobody dies if it's done properly. But when a baby dies in utero, somebody died. And they cannot accept, the pro-abortion ultras cannot accept that concept being expressed in the law, even when done in a way that absolutely protects abortion providers, pregnant women from any possible prosecution.
Ed, what's your prognosis of this bill at the Capitol? Is it going nowhere in the House?
I would have a hard time seeing this going anywhere, despite the fact that liberal activists around the Capitol, those that are not directly involved with the abortion issue, will say behind closed doors, they really should pass this. This is going to look bad if they kill this. You look at the Democratic base of the Capitol right now, and you have to ask yourself, who are their biggest supporters? And the pro-choice advocates are not the biggest funders for the Democrats. That's still unions. But they are, in many ways, in this age of social media, the loudest advocates for the Democrats. Now, I would say, just as someone sitting back and analyzing an election, maybe you should look at the 2014 race, where Mark Udall made it all about abortion rights, and that didn't work very well. But I still think that Democrats believe this is too important. They do not want to alienate this major base, and they are going to continue to point out at every given point how this could compare to personhood. Whether there's somebody that flips at the last minute, I don't know. But right now, I wouldn't say that this is a good likelihood of passing.
Penn, is there a risk for Democrats who oppose this in the House right now?
Oh, I don't think there's a risk for Democrats who oppose this. I do think one thing that may happen is, as the bill is written now, I think what draws the objection is it has a provision that says that life begins at conception, which is what some of the pro-choice advocates point at and say this is the problem. If they can figure out a way to tinker with that aspect of the bill, the House may get through it. Otherwise, I think it'll go to State Affairs and it'll receive the fate that was intended for it. It'll be postponed indefinitely there.
Patty, do you think there's more motivation to actually tweak the bill and make it passable, or would Republicans rather see Democrats go ahead and kill this bill and have that as an election issue next year?
Oh, I'm sure Republicans would rather see it killed than tweaked to a way that removes that statement. This is a bill, it's not like there are people running around the state cutting babies out of wombs right now. It's not, this is a bill, you understand where it's coming from, but There are plenty of things you can be charged with if you commit this heinous crime. It's really not the most important thing going through the legislature, but it will become one of the most important. It touches on personhood and one of the flashpoints of all discussion.